I still remember the smile on my parents' faces when they handed me the keys. Not a warm smile, not a proud one. It was the kind of smile people wear when they think they've won something, when they believe they've finally put you in your place. "This is your inheritance," my father said. My sister stood beside him, holding documents for a brand new apartment in the city. Clean walls, elevator, security, sunlight. I was given an old, dilapidated house on the edge of town. Cracked walls, a leaking roof, overgrown weeds swallowing the yard. The place smelled like dust and abandonment. They thought they had played me. They had no idea who owned the land beneath it. My name is Ethain Miller. I was 31 years old when my parents finally decided who mattered more. And that moment didn't surprise me. It only confirmed everything I had lived through since childhood. Growing up, I was the practical one. The one who didn't complain. The one who fixed things, handled paperwork, stayed quiet. My sister, Lily, was different. She was loud, expressive, emotional, and always protected. If something went wrong, it was assumed I would adjust. If something went right, it belonged to her. When Lily wanted to move to the city, my parents helped her immediately. When I stayed back to take care of family matters, they called it responsibility. They never called it sacrifice. So when they announced the inheritance early before anyone had passed, I already knew how it would go. Still, hearing it out loud hit differently. Lily needs stability, my mother said. An apartment suits her lifestyle. And you, my father added, glancing at me. You're good with your hands. You can fix things. The house will keep you busy. Busy. That was their word for being sidelined. Everyone clapped. Relatives nodded approvingly. Some whispered how generous my parents were for giving me a house at all. I stood there holding the keys, feeling the familiar weight settle on my chest. Not anger, not sadness, just understanding. Later that evening, I visited the house alone. The door creaked open like it was warning me. Inside, the walls were stained with time. The windows barely shut. The roof had holes patched badly years ago. Anyone else would have felt insulted. But I didn't, because I knew something they didn't. 10 years earlier, when I was 21, my grandfather had quietly transferred ownership of the land to me. Not the house, the land. The property deed was legally mine, registered, sealed, and forgotten by everyone except him and me. "You're the only one who understands value," he had said. "Not what's built on top, but what lasts underneath." My parents never asked. They never checked. They assumed the house meant nothing, that I meant nothing. What they didn't realize was that the land had been rezoned 2 years ago. Commercial expansion, infrastructure plans, quiet government approvals. The value had multiplied. The ruined house they laughed about sat on land developers were already circling. I stood in the dark living room and smiled, not because I felt victorious yet, but because, for the first time in my life, I didn't need to explain myself. They had given Lily comfort. They had given me control, and they didn't even know it. Lily moved into her apartment within a week. She posted pictures everywhere, white walls, glass windows, city lights glowing behind her smile. Every caption carried the same quiet message. I made it. My parents shared every post proudly, tagging relatives, replying to comments, soaking in the validation. Finally, she's living the life she deserves, my mother wrote. No one mentioned me. I spent that same week cleaning the old house. Broken tiles, rusted hinges, years of neglect layered over everything. Neighbors watched silently, probably wondering why anyone would bother fixing a place like that. Some shook their heads in pity. My parents visited once. My father stepped inside, looked around, and laughed. "You'll be busy for years," he said. "At least you won't have time to get into trouble." My mother added, "See, we didn't abandon you. We gave you something. Something. Not value, not respect, just something." I nodded, like I always had. They left feeling generous. That night, my phone rang. Unknown number. "Mr. Miller?" the voice asked. "Yes. This is Andrew Collins. I'm calling from Northridge Development." We'd like to discuss a property you own. I didn't answer right away. I think you might be mistaken, I said calmly. I only own an old house. There was a pause, then a soft laugh. No, sir. You own land, and land is what we're interested in. That was the first time someone said my name with interest instead of tolerance. We met 2 days later. Andrew arrived with documents, maps, zoning approvals. He explained things carefully, respectfully, like I mattered. The land beneath the worthless house had become strategic. New road, commercial access, future expansion plans. Developers had been tracking it for months, but ownership records had led them to me. Not my parents, not my sister. Me. You're sitting on a rare position, Andrew said. We're prepared to make an offer. A serious one. I didn't smile. I didn't celebrate. I asked questions. I listened. That night, Lily called me for the first time since moving. Hey, she said brightly. Mom told me you're still fixing the house. Yeah, I replied. She laughed. You always liked projects. By the way, my apartment value already went up. Crazy, right? Congratulations, I said. She hesitated. You're not upset, are you? I looked around the empty house. The quiet. The walls no one cared about. No, I said honestly. I'm exactly where I need to be. She didn't understand. And she didn't need to. Not yet. My parents thought they had divided their children fairly. They thought property meant walls and furniture. They forgot about ownership. And soon, very soon, they would remember. The first crack appeared in Lily's perfect life 3 months later. It wasn't dramatic. No sirens. No public embarrassment. Just a letter slipped under her apartment door. New regulations. Temporary construction. Limited access. Parking restrictions. Noise complaints. Small inconveniences that quietly ruin comfort. She called our parents immediately. This is ridiculous, she complained. They didn't tell me any of this when I bought the place. My mother reassured her. Don't worry, sweetheart. Apartments always appreciate. It's still a good investment. Investment. That word mattered to them now. Meanwhile, I stopped fixing the house. Not because I gave up, but because I was done pretending it mattered. I cleaned it just enough to keep it standing. The rest of my energy went into meetings. Andrew Collins came again, this time with his legal team. They laid documents across the table in my grandfather's old study. Plans, timelines, numbers that didn't look real until you stared long enough. We want a long-term lease, Andrew said. Not a quick buyout. I understood why. Leasing meant control, stability, influence. They wanted my land, but they needed me. I told them I'd think about it. That evening, my father showed up unannounced. He looked around, confused. You stopped working on the place. I got busy, I replied. With what? He asked. I shrugged. Planning, he frowned. Planning what? This house isn't worth planning. I looked at him calmly. You sure? He laughed it off. Ethan, don't be ridiculous. Ridiculous. Another word they loved. The next week, Lily's tone changed. Her apartment association raised fees. Construction delays dragged on. The view she paid extra for disappeared behind scaffolding. She started complaining less online. Her posts slowed. The shine wore off. She came to visit me for the first time. She walked into the old house and paused. It's quieter than I thought. It is, I said. She sat down, looking tired. Mom and Dad said you're struggling. I almost smiled. Did they? She hesitated. They worry you'll get stuck here. I looked at the walls, the land beneath them. I already own this, I said. She frowned. Own what? The land. Her expression shifted. Confusion, then disbelief. What do you mean? I mean it's in my name. She laughed nervously. You're joking. I wasn't. That night, she told our parents. My phone rang an hour later. What land? My father demanded. The property, I said calmly. That's not possible. It is. You're misunderstanding something, my mother added quickly. The house was in the family. The house isn't the point, I replied. Silence. Then my father said, slowly, "Why didn't you tell us?" I leaned back. "You never asked." That was the moment their tone changed. Not angry, not accusing, curious, careful. The next day, they wanted documents, proof, explanations. I gave them none. I met Andrew instead. "I'm ready," I said, "but on my terms." He smiled. "We were hoping you'd say that." Contracts moved fast after that. Lawyers spoke. Numbers grew. Influence shifted. Quietly, my parents sensed it slipping. They started visiting more, offering help, bringing food, acting like concern had always lived there. "You don't have to struggle alone," my mother said softly. I looked at her hands that had pushed me aside for decades. "I'm not struggling," I said. My father tried a different approach. "Family should decide these things together." I nodded. "Then why didn't you?" He had no answer. Lily stopped visiting. She stopped posting too. And somewhere between silence and realization, my parents finally understood something they never had before. They didn't give me the worst option. They gave me the only one they couldn't control. The family dinner was my mother's idea. She said it casually, like it wasn't calculated. "Let's all sit down," she suggested. "Clear the air." I knew what that meant. They wanted control back. They wanted answers they never earned. I agreed. The table was set carefully, like presentation could hide tension. Lily sat stiffly, eyes avoiding mine. My parents acted warm, attentive versions of themselves I only saw when they needed something. My father spoke first. "We've been thinking about your situation, my situation, as if it belonged to them. You've always been independent," he continued. "But big decisions can be overwhelming. We just want to guide you." Guide. Another word for decide. I smiled politely. "I've already decided." My mother's fork paused midair. "Decided what?" I signed the lease. Silence fell hard. Lily looked up sharply. "What lease?" "The land," I said. Calm, steady. My father's face tightened. "You leased it? Without consulting us?" I met his eyes. "Yes. You had no right," he snapped. I didn't raise my voice. "I had every right. It's mine." My mother reached out like she could still soften things. "Ethan, sweetheart, you don't understand how this looks. People will talk." I nodded. "They already do." That was when Lily broke. "Do you know what this means for me?" she said, voice shaking. "My apartment. Its value depends on development plans. If you control the land..." "I do," I said. Her eyes filled with panic. Not jealousy, fear. My father stood up. "You're doing this out of spite." I leaned back in my chair. "No, I'm doing it out of clarity." They didn't yell after that. They changed tactics, calls, messages, relatives reaching out. Words like family harmony and shared benefit floated around, pretending this was about love and not leverage. I stayed quiet. The development announcement came 2 weeks later. Local news, public records, my name listed under property ownership, investors commenting, plans confirmed. My parents saw it before I told them. My phone exploded. My mother cried. "We didn't know it was worth this much." My father was blunt. "We need to talk numbers." I met them in public this time. No shouting, no pleading, just uncomfortable truth. "You gave Lily comfort," I said. "You gave me responsibility." My father tried to interrupt. "I'm not finished," I continued. "You assumed responsibility meant burden. You assumed silence meant weakness." My mother whispered, "We were trying to be fair." I looked at her. "Fair would have required you to see me." They had no response. Lily didn't come. She sent a message later. "I didn't think you'd actually go through with it," I replied. "You never thought I had a choice." The deal finalized without them. The house stayed standing, quiet and unchanged, while everything beneath it moved forward. Roads planned, businesses lined up, value multiplied. They stopped calling, not out of respect, but because they finally understood they had nothing left to demand. I didn't feel victorious. I felt settled for the first time in my life. My worth wasn't decided by who received more. It was proven by who owned the ground everyone stood on. The house didn't change. That surprised people the most. As construction plans rolled out and money moved in numbers, I never spoke out loud. The old house stayed exactly the same. Same cracked walls. Same quiet yard. Same creaking door. I didn't renovate it. I didn't sell it. I didn't turn it into a symbol. I lived in it, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. People assumed I'd leave once the deal was done, that I'd upgrade, move closer to the city, surround myself with things that proved success. But I'd already spent my life trying to prove myself to people who never planned to believe me. I was done performing. My parents called once more, not to apologize, to ask. They wanted advice. They wanted help managing conversations. Relatives had started asking questions they couldn't answer anymore. People didn't see them as generous parents now. They saw them as careless. "You're good at explaining things," my mother said carefully. I looked out the window at the land stretching beyond the house. I learned that by being misunderstood. My father tried to sound firm. "Family should support each other," I replied evenly. "Family should recognize each other first." That ended the call. Lily sent a message weeks later. She didn't ask for money. She didn't accuse me. She just said, "I didn't know it would end like this." I typed back slowly. "It didn't end. It shifted." She never replied. The development moved forward. Slowly, respectfully, on my terms. I stayed involved, not as a show of power, but as a reminder to myself that I wasn't an accident in my own life. People began treating me differently, not because I demanded it, because proof does something words never can. I stopped attending family gatherings, not out of anger, but because I no longer needed permission to exist comfortably. Silence became a choice, not a punishment. One afternoon, I found my grandfather's old notebook in the house. Between faded pages, I saw a line he had written years ago. "They will measure you by what they can see. Let them. You only need to own what they stand on." I understood it fully now. My parents thought they were dividing assets. They were really dividing control. And for the first time, they lost it. I didn't win because they lost. I won because I stopped letting them define what winning looked like. The old house still stands, quiet, unimpressive, but beneath it lies the truth they never cared to look for. And that was enough.